one of the things that we need to do as Christians when we go through seasons of trouble or challenge or trial, one of the most important things that we need to do as Christians is we need to remind ourselves about the basic truths about our God. Remind yourself about the most basic and simple truths of about your God, right? Remember last week we pointed out two very simple and basic truths about God. We said God knows what you're going through and God cares for you. Today I want to continue along the same lines and I want to say remind yourself about some more truths about God, very basic and simple truths. Today I want to cover two truths. Here's the two truths for today. One is God can. God can. Secondly, God will. God is all powerful. God can simply is pointing to the power of God, the ability of God to do all things. He's all powerful. He's omnipotent. If you want to get a better understanding and if you want to get a better appreciation of God's power, the two best places to look at, the two best themes to look at is creation and resurrection, right? You may be in all kinds of problems, but I want you to think about creation a little bit because I believe when you think about creation, your heart will be filled with the sense of the greatness of your God. You'll start thinking nothing is impossible with Him. Whatever I ask, He can do, right? So think with me about creation for a minute. You may be going through all kinds of difficulties, problems. I'm asking you to 1 minute put aside that. Just spend a few minutes thinking with me about God's power in creation. I mean, creation, when you think about it, it's so beautiful, it's so amazing, it's so grand, isn't it? I'm not talking about how man came up and messed God's creation up. We're not talking about how, man messed up God's creation, right? No. I'm saying think about God's pure creation. Even today, sometimes you can see the beauty and the majesty of the creation, right? The mountains, the hills, the rivers, the oceans, the trees, the plants, the flowers, the animals, the fish in the sea, the sun, moon, and the stars. I mean, how majestic is creation? Creation itself is so majestic and glorious, isn't it? Beautiful. And when you look at this, I don't know about you, but I get the sense sometimes that, this must have been really hard to make. I mean, we have to sometimes really struggle to make things as humans, right? We also invent and create and do this and that. But it's not easy, is it? It takes hard effort to create and make and do all that, right? So when we look at creation, when I think about creation, sometimes I feel like, this must have been real hard to make. But then I go to Genesis chapter 1 and read how God made the world, how God created everything. And it's shocking. Have you ever read Genesis 1? And the whole thing seems unreal. The whole thing seems like this is too easy, How did God make everything? He simply spoke into being. He just said a word and it happened. Light be, and there was light. What I'm trying to say is this amazing and grand and beautiful and complex creation, you would think God struggled to make it or it was very hard work for Him. But actually what you read in the scriptures is that He created it easily. Easily. It was not a struggle for Him. It's not like he tried and tried and tried and finally got it right. No. He simply spoke a word and it happened. Whatever He spoke happened. In a world filled with darkness, He simply spoke, let there be light, and there was light. And how easy is that? It's as easy as walking into a room filled with darkness and turning on a switch, right? How easy is that? That's easy, right? You walk into a room, the room is dark, you turn on the switch, the light comes on. It's real easy. That's how easily God made the world. I mean, when we turn on the switch and the light comes on easily, it comes on easily because somebody put the hard effort of, putting the light bulb and giving the connection and preparing everything in advance. That's why after everything is ready, when you go and turn on the switch, it comes on very easily. But in creation, the world was filled with darkness, Genesis 1:2 says. There was no light. It was a world filled with darkness and emptiness. And into that world, as easily as we walk into a dark room and put on the switch and turn on the light, so easily God spoke a word and said, let there be light, and created light. Created light for the first time. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So easily he did it. Everything he created simply by speaking. It's amazing how easy God makes it look. Such a complex creation. It's like he created it easily. Why I'm saying that? This shows the greatness of his power. See, Thomas Alva Edison, he's known for inventing the light bulb. He's known for his repeated efforts. He never gave up. They say he tried 1,000 times in his efforts to invent the light bulb. He tried 1,000 times. And only after that he succeeded, right? So some people asked him, you failed 1,000 times. Didn't that discourage you? And he said, no, I learned from every mistake, from every failure. It was a learning process for me. There are 1,000 steps to make one light bulb, he said. 1,000 tries, and then he got it for one light bulb. We hail him as a great inventor, and he is. But the greatest among men cannot compare with our great God. One try, one word, let there be light, and light is created. Not a light bulb, light. Romans 4:17 talks about God as the one who calls those things that be not as though they were. He calls into existence the things that do not exist. Have you read that verse, Romans 4:17? He calls those things which be not as though they were. He calls into existence the things that do not exist. Human beings, we call whatever exists, right? If you own a dog, you have a name for that dog. You call out the name of the dog, and wherever the dog is in your house, it will come running to you. If it's there, you call it out and it comes before you, right? You generally don't call things that do not exist. But God is the kind of God who calls into existence the things that do not exist. That means this thing is not even there. It does not even exist. But if God calls it, it is created as per his calling. However he called it, it comes into existence. It is created, it is made, and it appears before him. Unbelievable. The unique power of God to create is no more with God than to call. Simply to call, that's all. To call something is to create something for God. I'm saying all this because I think we need to get a sense of his greatness. When you look at your problem, you won't get a sense of his greatness. You look at creation, my friend. Consider, ponder creation. You will get a sense of his greatness. There is no limit to his power. There are powerful things even in creation. If you ask a little child, what's the most powerful thing you know? They may say an animal like a lion or a tiger is very powerful. A rhinoceros, People who study power, scientists, they talk about the power of the sun. The sun is having a lot of power, We don't think about it because every day we take it for granted. The sun rises, but they say the sun has a lot of power. So much power that, they say that in a single hour, the amount of power from the sun that strikes the earth is more than the entire world consumes in a year. In 1 hour, the amount of power from the sun that strikes the earth, right? The amount of solar power coming from the sun to the earth in 1 hour is more than what the entire world consumes in 1 year. We think our electricity bill is high, right? Put together all the electricity bills, the whole world, put together the power consumption of the whole world. We think that's a lot of power. But the sun delivers that much power in 1 hour to the earth. Forget about how much power the sun has, actually. I'm talking the sun delivers that much power in 1 hour. We don't know how to take it and use it all. People are working on it. Solar power is already being used, but the technology is continuously improving and all. Well, the point is, there's so much power in the sun. That's what I'm trying to say. People who study space, they say the sun is nothing. They say there are stars that are 100 times bigger than the sun. Even though the sun looks big to us, these stars look small, but the stars are even farther. That's why they look very small. But actually, some of those stars are 100 times bigger than the sun. And they talk about sometimes these stars explode, it seems. These giant stars, 100, 150 times bigger than the sun. When that explodes, they say in a few seconds, it releases more power than the sun will produce in 10 billion years. It's unbelievable. Sun is so powerful. In 10 billion years, how much power it will produce. But these other stars, when they explode, in a few seconds, they release more. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, if a rhinoceros has so much power, if the sun has so much power, if a star has so much power, imagine the power the Creator has. The one who created the rhinoceros, the sun, and the stars in the farthest galaxies. The one who made them, the one who put the power within them. How much power does he have? There is no limit to his power, no limit. The amazing thing about creation is God creates out of nothing. God creates out of nothing. Here's a big difference between man and God. People talk about even man is creative, even man is inventive, there is a creativity and all that with man. Human beings are very talented in that way because they're made in the image of God. But nevertheless, there's a huge difference between human beings and God. One of the differences is for human beings to make something or create something, they need raw material. They need raw material. From trees or plants, they make medicine, From something that already exists, you can make something else, right? But if there's nothing else, how can you make? But when God created the world, he created it out of nothing. The world was empty. We're told in Genesis 1:2, it was empty. Out of emptiness, he brought fullness. Who can do that, my friend? Out of emptiness, he created a full world. Today, there is no place in the world that's truly empty. Wherever you go in the world, there may not be human beings there. There may not be houses there, but there's creation there. There's trees and plants and beautiful creation. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, this God is your God. The God whose power has no limit. The God who can create out of nothing. You give him nothing, he'll create everything with it. That's the kind of God you have. Sometimes people say, I have nothing in my life. My life is empty. There's nothing to work with. There's no raw material. There's not even the basic stuff is there anymore. How will I ever come out of this? How will I ever come up from this? See, we see no way sometimes. That's how our life looks sometimes. For some of you, it may look like that today. I want to point you to this Creator God who can create everything out of nothing. Put your trust in him. God can do it. When you are feeling overwhelmed by your problems, I encourage you to meditate on creation. And that's not very difficult to do, is it? All you have to do is step out and look at the sky. Right? Nehemiah 9, verse 6. Nehemiah is praying here for the nation of Israel, who was in a very, they've lost dignity. They've gone off into exile. Their nation has been, ransacked and so on. Nehemiah is building the wall again and so on. But he prays for the nation here. And he prays that God would again restore them to their original condition. And notice how he prays again, Nehemiah 9 verse 6. You are the Lord, you alone. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth and all that is on it, the seas and all that is in them. Why does he pray like this? There's a reason for this, you see. He's doing what we're talking about. He's meditating on the great power of God. Right? You are so powerful, oh God. Because if he looks at the people of Israel, they are in a hopeless condition. Now only they're building the wall and coming. Wall of the city is in ruins, and he built it, and they've come out of that now, and now he wants the nation to come up again. How is this ever going to happen? See, how can you restore a whole nation? How can you give it its lost dignity back? See, these are not ordinary things. How can an entire nation be uplifted? Nehemiah looks at the greatness of this God, the power of this God. He says, you are the Lord, you alone. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their hosts. See how detailed he goes. The earth and all that is on it, the seas and all that is in them. His mind is meditating on the greatness of God displayed in creation. And then only he continues to ask for this and that. You continue to read the prayer. It's a wonderful prayer. But I'm just pointing out, and I'm just telling you, you also think about creation before you pray what you want. Psalm 121 verse 2. Another example, Psalm 121. We all know the Psalm, right? I lift up my eyes to the hills, from where my help comes from. My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. You see that? Again and again you'll see this reference. The one who made heaven and earth, the one who made heaven and earth, because it shows that the psalmist is meditating. He's thinking about the greatness of God in creation. And this great God can help him today.